This is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. Today we have special guest, Dr. Rick Dina. I've known this guy for, I don't even know, over 25 years, maybe 30 years now. It's been a long time. But he has been a raw vegan now for 38 years. He is also a doctor of chiropractic. And literally, guys, him and his wife wrote the book on raw food nutrition. Like, seriously? And I know you guys probably haven't heard of Dr. Rick. They're going to hopefully be out more in social media in these coming years because they've always been teaching their raw vegan classes behind the scenes. So most of you guys don't know him and his wife and their amazing information that they put out there. All right, so we're going to ask him the one main question that we want to answer for you guys out there today is, Dr. Rick, what's the one main idea that can cause a person to fail miserably on a raw vegan diet?
Oh boy. Well, unfortunately, we've seen so many people fail miserably. And I think there's a number of things that go into that. But probably the biggest thing, if I could pick one biggest thing, it would be not recognizing the incredible importance of vegetables in a raw vegan diet. Now, fruit tastes great, everybody likes it, it's really easy to digest, so your energy levels stay high, you feel really good. It doesn't generally, unless it's, a high, something on the Dirty Dozen or something, it doesn't have harmful things in it that is going to damage your health.
Typically.
Yeah, typically.
I mean, some rare occasions, they eat too many apple seeds or...
Well, right, in general. But it's just not quite complete nutritionally. And, people are on this species-specific diet these days, and, we're frugivores, and I know we've all studied the comparative anatomy, how big your teeth are, and the central incisors, like, they don't look like cats, and we have longer intestines, and we don't produce uricase, and all those things in our fingers, and when fruit's ripe, it's colorful, and we see it, and we can pick it, and all that stuff is important to consider. But what's most important is what works today in 2025 and beyond. What a lot of people don't realize is the fruit we eat today is significantly different than the fruit our ancestors ate. The fruit our ancestors ate was higher in fiber, not as sweet, and higher in minerals. And you know what foods today are really high in fiber, really high in minerals, and really important, and not that sweet, but still delicious? Vegetables are. So to the species-specific diet, folks, if you want to recreate our ancestors' species-specific diet, you're going to take the sweeter, lower in fiber, less mineralized fruit, which is different than what our ancestors ate, and you're going to combine that with vegetables to fill in the nutritional gaps. It's just so important. So when you analyze, and my wife, Dr. Karin, and I have done a lot of analyses of different diets, and not just different raw food diets, but cooked plant-based diets, and paleo and keto and carnivore and macrobiotics, although that hasn't been around for a couple of decades, and the zone and different things over the years. And if you look at an all fruit diet, or a diet that's super high in fruit, which we're not against any quantity of fruit, should I say just too low in vegetables and almost to all fruit. What you consistently see is that, and it's hard for me to even believe I'm going to be saying this, but you might not make it on protein.
Well, Dr. Rick, I have a video on this, link down below. If you don't select your fruits carefully, you can be protein deficient, like I talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the super useful tool, Chronometer, you go on, you can have a free account, you put in all the fruit you eat for the day, and then you get a total protein listing, which I'm not too worried about, but then you get each of the essential amino acids. And those recommendations, I'm not calling them requirements, those recommendations are based on the World Health Organization data from research and studies all over the world. They are based on conservative overestimates. So if you get to 90, 95% of the conservative overestimate of what 97.5% of the population needs, the chances are you're fine. But if you're at like 60, 70, 75% of the recommendations for 1 or 2 essential amino acids, that's just not good. There's just no reason to be that low. And you may be one of the people who can, quote, get away with that, but you may not be. So protein may not be there depending on the fruits that you choose. Omega-3 essential fats might not be there depending on the fruits you choose. You add, a head of lettuce a day, you're covered for most people's needs. Sometimes even omega-6 fats, which most people get too much of, might not quite be there. Sometimes people are lacking in calcium, iron, zinc, selenium, iodine, almost for sure. And so there are some key nutrient deficiencies there. Now, if you take a diet that looks a lot like that, but you carve out not too much, couple hundred or so calories worth of added vegetables. And the best vegetables are what I call the undisputed vegetables. No one can argue it's a vegetable, like cruciferous vegetables, lettuce, those types of things, not the peppers and tomatoes and zucchini that are actually fruity vegetables. You get a couple hundred, or let's say 100 calories worth of the undisputed vegetables, and you can fill in with the fruity vegetables also. What do you see? You see, especially from the leafy greens, you're covered on omega-3s, you're covered on omega-6s. Protein easily makes it now.
So just by 100 calories of vegetables, Dr. Rick, so 100 calories of maybe lettuce is maybe a pound or 2, maybe 2 pounds.
Yeah, a little over a pound.
Yeah, and then you say, so you're telling people if they want to eat fruit.
But that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of quantity.
Lettuce.
But if you're eating an otherwise fruit diet and you have 1 head of lettuce a day or a pound, you're going to be good on all your vegetables?
Not necessarily.
And all your other
nutrients? That's going to make a huge difference. That's going to cover your omega-3 needs, probably your omega-6 needs, cover your protein needs. Might not quite be enough to get all of the mineral complement that is totally required. And what we see over and over again is so if I can add some of now that we've talked about vegetables a little bit, some of the other components. When people are really adamant that fruit is our species-specific diet and that's all we should eat, that's it. Nutrient analyses, health outcomes, blood sugar, pH, none of those other things matter. Just everything is allegedly what our ancestors ate without studying anthropology, because when you really look at what our ancestors ate, they were opportunistic omnivores. I'm not saying that's ideal. We have way more choices today, and that's great. But so they really hyper-focused on that. They're really hyper-focused on fruit. They don't think vegetables are human food. They don't pay attention to where all the nutrients come from, which isn't that hard to do, but nevertheless, you gotta address it. And they think that because they know that, they know everything. That is a prescription for failure, because they are going to not know what to do when some health issue comes up. They're thinking, I'm doing everything perfectly. I have a health issue. And then what's in their future? An announcement to their community why I am no longer raw vegan. And we see this over and over again, and we don't want it to happen to any of you. We want you to thrive and be a super healthy raw or mostly raw vegan. And set a great example, keep it up for 38 years or what, about
30 something. I've been doing 30 myself.
Like John, that's a lot of time. Must be doing something right, or a lot of things right. So we don't want that to happen to any of you. We want people to be as healthy as possible and not be too stuck in a limited paradigm. And vegetables, again, they're just so key. You add those vegetables and you just see the nutrient analysis fill in the gaps. It's just so good, and you feel better, and your brain works better, and you're clear, and just everything works better.
So, Dr. Rick, the question for you is, how many vegetables should somebody eat to be healthy, right? To get their nutrient needs met. I mean, we talked about like a pound of lettuce a day, but there's a lot more vegetables that, in my opinion, are a lot more healthy than lettuce. Not that lettuce is unhealthy, but there's so many other unique vegetables with different nutrients, and they all absorb different levels of minerals and have different phytochemicals and all these things.
Yeah, so I mean, I happen to love cauliflower, for example. I eat about a head of raw cauliflower a day. It's about 1.5 pounds worth. I get a pound or two of lettuce in a day. I usually get a pound of zucchini in a day, in a salad at night, and some more vegetables in the dressing. Probably 3 to 5 pounds of vegetables per day. So the lettuce and the cauliflower, undisputed vegetables, the tomatoes, the zucchini, the fruity vegetables, but they're still generally more nutritious, more nutrient dense than the straight up fruit. And that fills in the nutrient gaps really well. We'd encourage you all to set up a Chronometer account, go in there, and don't just say, well, I eat a perfect diet, so whatever it says, they're wrong if it says I don't get anything. I mean, if you're super well educated, really, really well educated, and you have some differences of opinion, that's fine. Like if you don't make it on omega-6s, I may be okay with that. Maybe not make it on calcium, but if you get 800 milligrams a day, that's probably fine. I mean, there can be some exceptions. But do it yourselves. Put in some vegetables and see what happens to the nutrient profile. And when you cover your needs are covered. You also get more fiber. Everything. And John, of course, will tell you you need 8 million vegetables and half have to come from your garden to feed all the right probiotic bacteria. I'm not quite that adamant about that, but the vegetables are just so important. They're not toxic. They're not bad. Yes, they have some naturally occurring toxins, but they also have, to keep the pests away and stuff, but they also have an incredible array of phytonutrients that help counteract the effects of some of those toxins, that help counteract the effects of pollution and other things that we all have to deal with in the world today, that prevent the spread and growth of cancer, like sulforaphane in the raw cruciferous vegetables and indole-3 carbinol and other nutrients that just are so important. Nutrients matter. Okay, and even for detoxification, people think that if you're just eating fruit, you're detoxing the most, and vegetables are somehow going to slow that down. It's actually just the opposite. When you look at the phases of liver detoxification, the liver is the primary organ of detoxification, not necessarily elimination. That's the next step to actually get it out of the body. The liver is the primary organ of detoxification. It is a nutrient-dependent process. There's phase 1 and phase 2. Vegetables in general fill in the gaps to supply those nutrients more effectively than fruit does. If you're missing those nutrients, you are slowing down detoxification. You add vegetables, you get those nutrients, the liver can do its job more effectively. You increase detoxification, and so many other things work so much better. That's it in a nutshell.
All right, Dr. Rick. So, what I would like to tell you guys, vegetables are critical for your success. I personally heat process some of my vegetables that I eat. Of course, Rick is all raw.
Yeah, now, by the way, John and I are the opposite. When we met, how many years ago? 1998.
Yeah.
So, long time ago, 27 years ago. John was all raw, and I was like 90% raw. Now we're kind of the opposite.
Obviously.
I've been all raw or virtually all raw. Closer to 100% than 99%, but a couple licks of a spoon when my kid's like, Daddy, eat this. And, I want him to eat his soup with steamed kale and zucchini and stuff in it. I don't think I'm poisoning my kid by doing that. We love seeing him eat his vegetables. But, a couple things like that. That's my disclaimer. But so I'm the all raw one and John's the mostly raw one now. We've switched. I'm not against steamed vegetables. That they're phenomenally good.
Yeah, and what I would tell you guys is I want you guys to eat all kinds of vegetables, So I see vegetables as because I'm a gardener, of course, growing your own vegetables is always the best. But I see them as different plant parts, right? Okay, the fruit is a reproductive organ, right? But then besides the fruit, there's the leaves or leafy greens, which are very important to eat, right? Then another part of the plant are the stems, which I also want you to eat. So if you think stem vegetables, what are stem vegetables? Things like celery, right? Another one I like to grow and eat a lot is ashitaba, which is totally, you're never gonna find it unless you grow it yourself. But there's a lot of stems, like the bok choy is also, it's a leaf at the top, but also it's a very good stem plant, or even if you eat the Swiss chard stems, they're actually really rich in the minerals. And then going down from the stem, then we get like the tuber, right? The tuber is like the growth, or actually, there's other stem vegetables like kohlrabi, or even eating your broccoli stalks. There's a lot of nutrients in broccoli stalks, or even the cauliflower stalks, which I know you eat, Dr. Ray.
Yeah.
And they're quite tasty, right? So, or the kohlrabi is basically an enlarged stalk of a brassica family of plants. So like the little ball thing, because it like goes down the stem and then it just kind of makes a big ball. And then below that, I want you guys to eat the tubers, which are not quite the roots, but they're like a storage form. So some of the ones you can eat raw are things like the jicama, right? An excellent storage tuber high in inulin, can feed your microbiome. Another excellent storage tuber are the sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes. You can eat those raw as well. Of course, other ones maybe like ginger, another kind of tuberous crop. You can eat turmeric, very anti-inflammatory as well. And then going down from there, we have maybe bulbs. So there'd be onions and garlics, which are kind of underground reproductive organs of the plants as well. And then we have roots. So roots, you could think of like carrots and beets. So I want you guys to eat all these different levels of vegetables, because in each different level of the vegetable, it concentrates different minerals, has different phytonutrients, vitamins, and minerals in there for you guys, right? So I try to eat a variety of all these on a daily basis or even weekly basis, right? So I'll tell you guys personally, my goal is to eat 2 pounds of the leaves alone, because they are so important to me. And then other than that, I eat all the other different parts of the vegetables, randomly. Some days I'll have more celery juice. Some days I'll have fruity vegetables like cucumber. So lately I've been doing fruity vegetable cucumber with celery, and then ashitaba, and then I'll do kale, and then romaine juice. So that's how I like to really get a pound of my greens and other vegetables in me, to hydrate me, because I live in the desert. 32 ounces, and it takes about 1 pound of vegetables to turn into 8 ounces or 1 cup of juice. So that's 4 pounds of vegetables right there. So my favorite is when I do straight romaine juice. So I just do straight romaine, 1 quart. I don't do that too much because it gets rather expensive. Some of the other vegetables, especially this time of year, cucumbers are very inexpensive for me for locally grown. And then in addition, I'll eat raw salads and have those raw. Lately I've been blending up my salad. So I'll go around my garden and just pick all kinds of random leafy greens, including things like basil, another amazing, an herb, but I consider that a green. I'll blend up with tomatoes and then drink that as a soup, and then even put some heat processed cooked beans and mushrooms and then eat that as a soup. And then of course the other way I like to eat it is I like to steam my vegetables also. I know some of you guys don't want to do the steam thing, but I just use an Instant Pot. It's very easy to cook and not overcook your vegetables. Some of the vegetables I put in there, you can set the Instant Pot for 0 minutes. It just cooks it lightly. It will turn the broccoli bright green and blow open some cell walls and make some chlorophyll and some other nutrients more available, and of course lessen other nutrients. So Dr. Rick, how many vegetables do you eat? How many pounds of vegetables do you eat a day in greens?
Probably 3 to 5, and probably a pound or so is leafy greens. I've been really into romaine lately. I used to blend kale and the tree collards that John inspired us to grow in our yard in smoothies. I found that they didn't always digest that well. If I eat at the beginning of each year, I do a juice fast, and then I try to come off it and eat super clean for a while. I'll eat just a head of romaine. I'm not saying you all have to do this. This is a little, extreme from a health purist point of view, or just a head of cauliflower. Smoothies don't always digest as well, so I'm just eating more romaine these days. Sometimes it's a couple of pounds a day. But John, you made a really good point about if this sounds like an extreme amount of vegetables to eat, it doesn't need to be that extreme. It's not it's all or nothing. But John, you mentioned juicing, steaming. Some people like fermenting, that softens the vegetables up.
With less or no salt.
Yeah.
Or actually what Nate and Lissa do is actually they freeze and then thaw out the vegetables, which also breaks open cell walls and makes it
Chris Kendall's strategy.
It makes it softer, even freezing sprouted lentils and then thawing them out, so it almost gives it a cooked texture.
Yeah. So there's a lot of strategies that you can take to include more vegetables in your diet. You don't just have to eat them all plain, like I mentioned. You can make really good salad dressings too that make the vegetables just easier to eat when you got a good dressing over there. Feel free to use a fruit-based dressing if you like that. And I also want to say, John and I and a lot of people who recognize the value of vegetables in a raw vegan diet, or in any diet for that matter, we're not against fruit. We love fruit. About 2/3 of my calories have come from fruit for 38 years, okay? So I'm not like a no fruit guy. I love fruit, okay? So 3 to 5 pounds of vegetables, probably 6 or 8 pounds of fruit per day. It's absolutely fantastic. The message here, though, is just don't forget those vegetables. Fruit is nearly perfect. Keyword being nearly. You need those vegetables to just fill in the gaps. And please don't be stuck on somehow they're bad for you, that they're going to ruin your thyroid, or do something else that's just unwarranted. Especially, I don't know, we could go on, but vegetables are just so important, so good.
So Dr. Rick, I know there's some people watching this now that don't eat a lot of vegetables, so what would you suggest to them? Because they like, oh, I tried some vegetables and I got a stomach ache, or they don't digest well for me, because maybe they've been on a fruit diet for so long that honestly, fruit is easier to digest when you're harvesting it, or when you're buying kale from the store that's kind of like really old and nasty and really fibrous, like, right? I would choke those down. I can't even eat those because I grow mine with kale. But like, what would you tell people to like, how can they start getting more of the vegetables in so that they could, be healthier on their raw vegan diet and not go to the dark side?
Yeah, so unfortunately, all too often when we hear that people can't digest vegetables, they have eaten a fruit-exclusive diet for extended periods of time, or they've been on a juice feast thing for extended periods of time where they're just having juice and oil, which is the absolute antithesis of juice. It's ridiculous, but that's the way you can go 120 days and all these extended periods of time with, I do a juice fast for 14 days and I'm like, whoa, I need food. I'm at like 3 or 4% body fat. No way I could go a few months of that. But anyway, oil and the juice, just not enough fiber in there. And then they're not taking in the probiotic fiber that feeds the bacteria that likes to eat vegetable fiber. So when you add vegetables in there and people don't digest them well, the bacteria is not there, and then people say, oh, I got indigestion, therefore, yeah, that confirms what I'm thinking. Vegetables aren't human food, so they get more and more restrictive and more depleted. And then they, again, some of them a lot high percentage, why I'm no longer raw vegan, because then they eat some toxic stuff like meat, which comes with a lot of horrible things in it, but does supply some key nutrients they were missing. And then they're like, oh my God, the lights came on and I feel so much better. You can do that with vegetables and other healthy plant foods. Just don't go from one ridiculous extreme to another. Then you can keep getting all the benefits of easy to digest food that doesn't have a bunch of toxic stuff in it, and all your nutrient needs are covered. And that's the basic equation for long-term success. So, eating them, juicing them, steaming them, for those of you who don't have to be, 100% raw all the time, fermenting if you're so inclined, or blending them up in a smoothie.
I would say vacuum blending them up in a smoothie, like
John's got us into that.
Like Dr. Rick and I both do. It makes a big difference.
It really does.
So I'd say juicing is probably the best way, in my opinion, because you're removing some of the fiber but keeping the soluble fiber, and then also steaming if you don't want to keep that raw label, because that actually also really makes things a lot easier. So Dr. Rick, what's your thoughts on these methods for somebody that hasn't really gotten into digesting vegetables? And if they try to eat kale from the store, I could agree, kale from the store, if it's not the baby kale, is very difficult to digest. It's hard and fibrous. And even yourself, you said you said when you smoothie it or blend it up, vacuum blend it, it doesn't digest well for you. Yeah,
not perfectly. It's still good, just one aspect it's a little too detailed about when it comes out isn't quite perfect. But whereas romaine, no matter how much I eat of that, everything's super perfect. So steaming is a good way to start. Juicing is a good way to start. Fermenting is a good way to start. And I've dealt with a lot of people. My first 4 years in practice was at True North Health. A lot of you have heard about it, medically supervised water-only fasting center. And fasting is incredibly helpful, generally speaking, for autoimmune diseases, including ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. And we had a number of people during the time I was there, and I'm sure since then as well, come in, and fasting would help them recover from those conditions. So generally speaking, they tell people with Crohn's and colitis not to eat raw vegetables at all, that they're just absolutely the worst. And when people are in a really pro-inflammatory state in their intestines, that is legitimate. Okay, it just really messes them up. But the good news is when you do some juicing, you do some water fasting, you eat healthier over time, it's not days or weeks, it's months and years. You do need to be patient. People can start including more and more raw vegetables into their diet, but they start out with some juice. When they can graduate to food, they start out with soft lettuce, not romaine, not carrots. They might be able to shred some soft fruity vegetables like zucchini and put a little blended tomato on it. It might be 6 months or a year later before they can have a little shredded carrot. You build, and then with steaming, that's help. You over steam your vegetables initially to get them really soft. And if you can do that, give that a few weeks or a few months, then don't steam them quite as much. Whatever you do, you started with the softest and easiest, and you build up gradually over time. And the same thing can apply to people who have depleted their microbiome from not enough vegetable fiber. Just like exercise is the common analogy. You can't sit on the couch for 10 years and then go out and run 10 miles and say, oh my God, my back hurts and my knees hurt and my ankles hurt. Therefore, human beings aren't suited for exercise. It's not a human activity. It's like, no, you did too much all at once. You have to build up gradually. So I think any of those strategies, but going gradually to let yourself acclimate, let some of that good bacteria build up that can then handle more and more and more, that's the way to go, no matter how you want to slice it. I don't think there's any one perfect path.
All right, Dr. Rick, so another thing that's commonly said out there in the raw vegan movement is I'm just going to eat tender greens because that's what Ancestral would eat, or bonobos, what are similar to us. They eat only tender greens, which is actually not true. They eat more than tender greens. But what are your thoughts on tender greens, and can they be the only green somebody eats, or the only vegetable somebody eats, or do you think somebody needs a wider variety of vegetables than just the tender greens, and a mixture and diversity of those tender greens? You could buy like baby kale, baby spinach, baby lettuces, and all these things, at most organic health food stores.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on tender greens. I mean, I know spinach is kind of soft and tender and nice, but I don't know. I like salads that crunch. I like romaine. I like romaine hearts, actually, although the green parts are more nutrient dense. But I like that stem that crunches. I like some carrots that crunch. So I can't really speak to that. But I wouldn't limit yourself to that, because then you're limited.
Yep.
Look. Our bodies can digest leafy greens.
Well, should be able to digest.
Yeah. Well, they can when everything's working properly and you're not too limited. You can digest rough vegetables. I eat a head of raw cauliflower every day. I digest that just fine. I eat a head or two of romaine every day. I digest that just fine. But if you've limited yourself too much and you can only handle soft fruits and the tender greens, you're missing out. You're really missing out.
So, Dr. Rick, I know a popular thing out there some raw vegans do is like, okay, I don't need to eat any vegetables because I'm just going to drink this barley grass juice powder. Does the barley grass juice powder have all the different nutrients we need and can take the place of all the other vegetables out there?
Absolutely not. It's good stuff.
I take barley grass powder sometimes.
I love the way it tastes. If I make like watermelon celery juice and add some of the barley powder to it, it tastes like a watermelon malt. It's so good. But is that complete? No way. A number of years ago, I consulted with a bunch of people who were on fruit only no vegetables, but barley green juice powder was their only green in their diet, the only thing that wasn't fruit. And people would not always be healthy. I remember talking to one young lady. Somehow we're having a consultation. It's going over her lab work. We were talking about some things. Fruit and barley green juice powder. She had been doing it for an extended period of time. And dental health came up, and we were talking about, well, flossing's really important. And she says, "Oh, I don't like to floss." I said, "Really? Why don't you like to floss?" "Oh, because the last time I flossed, I was flossing in the back, and when I pulled the floss up, some pieces of my tooth chipped apart."
Oh, God. Ugh.
That's what happened. This is a true story.
Geez.
And it made me think, well, that she's not covering all her nutrient needs there, not getting all her minerals, and probably isn't practicing good dental hygiene either. And the dates
then all the
and
fruit,
everything
sugar,
is staying there and feeding
the
bacteria. That's so absolute disaster. So again, not against fruit, not against barley grass. Just get more vegetables in also. And don't think that the people who have researched stuff their whole lives, who have the recommendations for what levels of nutrients we should get, are all a bunch of dopes. They're actually pretty smart people. And yes, sometimes you do modify it on a raw vegan diet, but you don't just ignore all of that because you think you know better than everyone who's researched this for many decades and all the accumulation before you.
All right, Dr. Rick. So you just talked about nutritional deficiencies. So that brings me into the next subject I wanted to discuss. How can you and Dr. Karin help people to prevent nutrient deficiencies on a raw vegan diet? You guys learned today about the importance of vegetables, but vegetables are just one component of many components on a healthy raw vegan diet, and Dr. Rick and Karin can help you so that you are not deficient and you have an appropriately planned raw vegan diet. Unfortunately, there's nobody else out there that I can think of that talks about an appropriately planned raw vegan diet to make sure all your nutrient needs are met.
Yeah, so nuts and seeds can come in handy, sea vegetables can come in handy, but you want the right ones for iodine without the ones with arsenic and stuff in there. So we actually just created a brand new course, up-to-date research, all of our 35 plus years of experience for each of us, teaching for 20 years, a lot of stuff, lab work on raw vegans over the years, a new course called Creating Nutrient-Replete Meals. And it's a 24-hour course that basically goes through all of the nutrients, starts with the macronutrients, goes into the vitamins, the minerals, protein, everything to make sure you can design a raw vegan diet that covers all of those needs. And it does it in a way that keeps the toxins away and that is easy to digest also. And it's really pretty awesome.
Wow.
It's not that hard to do when you're properly educated, but if you don't know what you're doing, like a lot of people out there, like a lot of influencers out there steering people down the wrong path, then things don't work.
Yeah, so I would tell you guys, be cautious of many raw vegan influencers because they won't get deep into the science. As you guys know, I'm science-based on my channel, and I pull up a lot of published studies for my videos. But Dr. Rick, if somebody wants to get access to your class so that they won't make a video why I'm no longer raw vegan because they actually have the new information they need, and now they can basically take that and then design appropriately planned nutrient replete, which means you're going to get all your nutrients, right? How can they do that?
Yes, so we actually, since the end of April, Dr. Karin and I have a community, the Raw Vegan Lifetime Success Community, and this course, Creating Nutrient-Replete Meals, is in that community. So when you join the community, you get that course as part of it. You also get monthly live Q&A sessions directly with Dr. Karin and I. You get monthly live recipe demos directly with Dr. Karin and I. Some of you have know that John has been on many of our summits. We had 9 years in a row of summits where we interviewed different people who know what they're talking about, like John. And so those 9 years worth of summits are in the community also. A few other bonus materials like 5 or 6 recipe ebooks So you learn about the nutrients and how important they are. You learn what foods they're in. And then we have recipe ebooks that are congruent with what you learned about creating nutrient-replete meals. And it all comes together. You get direct access to Dr. Karin and I. And it's a really easy, accessible way to educate yourself properly for long-term success, which is what we want for everybody.
All right, Dr. Rick, if somebody wants to learn about your community, how can they do that?
Yeah. So we have a link right down below.
All right, we'll put a link down below.
That you can click on. It'll take you to kind of a mini landing page that gives you the basic features and benefits of the course. There's a couple of videos on there. One of them just kind of runs through what's written there and adds a little bit of detail, what you get, what you can expect from being part of the community. And then there's even a video on some registration tips. There's a couple of things you need to know, like when you register, it'll send the email address. You use a code, so you might as well have your email open, and then you got to upload a photo. So it just makes it really easy. And we are, as of the summer of 2025, we are still in our founding members portion of things here, just trying to build up, and it is an insanely good deal. Like, we just went ridiculously low in the cost.
And the price will go up.
And the price will definitely go up over time. We're just trying to get a few hundred people in there to begin with. And the great thing is, if you join now for the super insanely ridiculously low price, in the future when people are paying 2 and 3 times as much who are new to the community, you will still pay the lowest cost.
So you'll be locked in at the low
for
price.
A year, and as long as you like what we're providing, then you can, it's a subscription, so it'll keep going, and you can cancel at any time if for some reason you don't like it. There's a monthly really low fee, but then a super good deal annual fee as well.
Wonderful, Dr. Rick. So before we sign off, do you have any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with people that watch this episode today so that they could be more successful on a raw vegan diet?
Yeah, bottom line theme is get your vegetables in there, and as long as you're doing that, generally speaking, eat all the fruit you want. I'm not going to tell you that it's too high in sugar, and subscribe to any of those myths because I know better. And just make sure you get those veggies in there. Make sure your nutrient needs are covered, because it's just people not being covered is one of the biggest things that makes them not feel the best. Nutrients really do matter. They really do things, and you need them. Now, you don't just eat junk and take a bunch of supplements. That doesn't do it either. It's not just about nutrients. You have to do it with the whole package deal, where your food is easy to digest, it's satisfying, it tastes good, it's relatively free of toxic stuff like cholesterol and saturated fat and pesticides and all, carcinogens from cooked meat products and all that stuff. It's free of that stuff, and it supplies all the nutrients you need in a whole food, synergistic way that covers your needs. You can keep that up for a lifetime and feel exceptionally good. And once again, Dr. Karin and I and John and many other people on this path, we want that for all of you. We want you to be really healthy. We want other people to see you and say, oh my God, you're glowing and you feel so good. What are you doing? And then you can share that with them. And then the world becomes a healthier place over time, which it has been. When John and I got started with this stuff decades ago, it was just a few weirdos like us eating this way. It is incredible how much it's grown. So we want it to keep growing, and we want to see the trend shift toward people being successful in growing. We want that segment to grow, and we want the people bailing out because they did it wrong and bringing
shrink.
Other people with them. We want to see less of that, and what we've shared in this video is an incredibly good starting point for that to happen. So go for it. You're all worth it. It's worth the effort. Do it right, and it will pay you back so many times over for the rest of your life. There's just no way to explain when you feel so good every day. It's just, life is just so much better. So go for it, everybody, and if we can be of assistance, we would be honored to help you in your journeys.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Rick. I mean, I think the summary that I want to tell you guys is I want you guys to eat a diversity, right? Dr. Rick would agree, if you're only eating bananas, dates, romaine lettuce, right, in a day, because those are your raw foods, you could be raw vegan, but you're getting a very limited spectrum of nutrients. If you're eating 20, 30, 40 different kinds of fruits, vegetables, and other plant foods a week, you're getting all different kinds of nutrients, and then you have a much greater opportunity to meet all your nutrient needs, even if you didn't put it in a chronometer, provided you're getting enough calories and eating all different kinds of plant foods, including even more than just fruits and vegetables. So, I preach a lot about diversity and really want you guys to, next time you go to the grocery store, buy your fruits. I love my fruits. I'll never stop eating my fruits, but I buy all kinds of different weird vegetables, or I grow them myself, which is my preference. And I eat them, I've been eating lots of like water spinach these days and sweet potato leaves, because that's what's really growing amazing in my desert garden this time of year, right? And then come the springtime or the winter, I'll be eating lettuces and kales and bok choy and kamatsuna and all these mizuna and all these other things, right? So diversity is important. Also try to eat with the seasons as much as you can, although, you could get bananas every single day of the year, especially this time of year. I've been enjoying many summer fruits, including plums and peaches I got from the farmer's market just today. So yeah, diversity matters also, and diversity in your vegetables as well as your fruits. So yeah, if you guys want to learn more about how to have a nutrient-replete diet with Doctors Rick and Karin, go through their class, which I 100% approve of, or even buy their book, the Raw Food Nutrition Handbook, so you guys could also dial in your diet so that you're doing it healthfully instead of unhealthfully, as some raw vegan influencers teach out there. Links down below to their book as well as to their new community that you can join.
Quick disclaimer about the book. It's not a recipe book. It is not a light reading book. If you're really into nutrition and you want to know where stuff comes from and you don't mind looking up charts and graphs, this book is an incredible resource, but just know that going in. It's not for the meek.
Not for the meek.
It's for
us nutrition nerds.
Yes.
All right, guys. All right, so if you guys enjoyed this episode with Dr. Rick today and want more videos with Dr. Rick in the future, please be sure to give this away a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people that eat a lot of fruit and don't eat enough vegetables so that they could learn how they could be more successful and get some vegetables into them and learn the importance of eating a diversity of vegetables on a raw vegan diet, or any diet for that matter. Vegetables are correlated with longer lives and healthier lives, and people into nutrition will say, yeah, you got to eat your vegetables, guys, so let's not forget it. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new upcoming episodes of coming every 5 to 7 days. You never know who I'll be interviewing, what new knowledge bombs I'll be dropping on you, and I wouldn't want you to miss any single episode, so make sure you click the little bell to get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check past episodes. Past episodes are Wealth of Knowledge. Over 850 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys all about eating a raw fruit and vegetable plant-based diet that will lead you to success. And I'll put some of my favorite videos I've made in the past over the many years with Dr. Rick right down below, including his how he eats a head of cauliflower a day and how you're not gonna get, enlarged thyroid from eating all this cauliflower, and especially his talks on essential fats. This guy is a wealth of knowledge. So yeah, join his new community with Dr. Karin so you guys could be on the successful path as well. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.